I started this channel because I love reading books. Today I'll be reviewing Low Road, The Life and Legacy of Donald Goines by Eddie B. Allen Jr. Check me out. First off, I want to say that it was a Donald Goines novel that kickstarted my trip into the world of the bookstore. I was around 24 when I read his first novel, Dope Fiend, and to this day, it's the most graphic book I have ever read. If you know, you know. Let's get to it. Published in 2004, The Low Road by Eddie B. Allen Jr., born and raised in Detroit. And from what I hear, he's currently trying to adapt this book into a feature film. Forwarded by the late, great DMX, who, like many people incarcerated, came across his first Donald Goines book while in prison. X produced and starred in the film adaptation of the Goines book Never Die Alone, starring David Arquette and Michael Ealy. Also in 2004, another one of Goines' books was turned into a film, Crime Partners, with Ice-T and Snoop Doggy Dogg. The hip-hop community has referenced Donald Goines for years. Rappers from 50 Cent to Nas to Ludacris, Scarface, The Lox, Tupac, the list goes on and on and on. Goines churned out 16 novels in just over 4 years. The only thing that stopped him was his murder. His death was just like many of the characters he wrote about, violent. Gunned down in his Highland Park home, along with his common-law wife, Shirley Saylor, their 2 young children were found left unharmed, locked in the basement. Their murders have never been solved. No arrests have ever been made. He was only 36 years old. The Low Road details the life of many of Donald Goines' family members. It begins with his grandparents, George and Clariette Ball, both from Little Rock, Arkansas. Clariette was rumored to be the offspring of a young slave girl and the one time and the only president of the Southern states, Jefferson Davis, leader of the Confederacy during the Civil War. This has never been proven true, but it is the story that a young Donald Goines grew up hearing. The Balls would end up migrating to Michigan, along with their daughter Myrtle. It was around this time Myrtle meets a gentleman named Joe Goines. The two would eventually settle in Detroit, where they would marry and start a family of their own. Donald Goines is born in December of 1936, the middle child of 2 sisters. Their stories are even told. You get to know everybody during this read. I mean, there's a whole host of characters mentioned in this book. One sister dances for Cab Calloway. Another one briefly dates Wilt Chamberlain. I guess she was one of them 10,000. Their parents hung out with Joe Louis, famous figures like the Harlem Globetrotters, and Ray Charles, Miles Davis, Charlie Bird Parker. They all have their own little side stories in this book. Now, this is because the Goines family owned a couple of very successful dry cleaning stores. They would also frequent the historical Black Bottom and Paradise Valley neighborhoods. Considered the city within the city, they were packed with over 300 black-owned businesses that thrived between the 1920s and the late 50s. Many of Donald Goines' books takes place in and around this area. One thing I do like about this book is Eddie B. Allen does get detailed about this area, and he describes its destruction due to the construction of the I-75 and Lodge freeways. Sometime in 1952, at around the age of 16, Donald Goines would drop out of Persian High School, fake his birth certificate, and enlist himself into the United States Air Force. He would be deployed to Korea. During that time, he would apparently father a child. It was also around this time when he would pick up the addiction of heroin that would plague him for the rest of his life. After returning home, Donald Goines' life would spiral. Even though his family owned a successful business, he wanted nothing to do with it. The monkey on his back drove him to the streets. Along with a drug habit, he also became fond of prostitutes while serving in the military. Goines becomes a pimp, and apparently he was good at it. With a slick tongue, silky black hair, and a high yellow tone, they say the women would choose him. But heroin would negate all of this. In order to fuel his addiction, Goines gets involved in many different criminal activities, from numbers running to moonshine production, robbery, drug dealing. It was only a matter of time before the law catches up to him. This begins his many stints in and out of prison for years to come. While incarcerated, he comes across the book Pimp by Iceberg Slim, which inspires him to become the man that we all know today, the author, Donald Goines. The Low Road by Eddie B. Allen Jr. does have its faults. You'll learn a lot about Donald Goines and his family, but the book jumps around all over the place. There are stories of people, places, and events that have nothing to do with Donald Goines at all. For instance, there's this whole story about the '67 riots and stories of John Conyers and the then governor George Romney. Motown is discussed, and Berry Gordy. He speaks a lot about the city of Detroit itself, but the stories take you off the course of the man. There is, however, an in-depth interview at the end of the book with a very close friend of Donald Goines named Walter Williams, and he does speculate on who he believes murdered his good friend Donald Goines. If you're a big fan, this book should be a part of your collection, and I'll leave it at that. Join me next time when I'll be reviewing Ted Decker's Black.